Please be advised this podcast features AI cloned voices created with human oversight. All content is reviewed by experts for accuracy and relevance. Welcome to IADS Retail Park, the official podcast of the International Association of Department Stores. I'm Maya, and today we're embarking on a detailed analysis of how department stores are rethinking their organizational DNA to thrive amid disruption and complexity. In leadership circles, the organizational chart is far more than a static diagram. It reflects a retailer's core strategy, internal priorities, and its readiness to adapt to a rapidly evolving market. Before we start, we'd like to note that today's discussion draws from research conducted in 2021. While the principles we'll discuss remain relevant, some specific details may have evolved. Now, to help us decode the anatomy of today's top department stores, I'm joined again by Dr. Christopher Nee, whose research offers a unique window into these company structures and the profound changes underway. Let's examine how structure shapes the future of retail. Christopher, your report stresses that organization charts, while not a perfect snapshot of reality, deliver crucial insights. In your view, what can a close study of an org chart tell us about a company, especially in our sector?
That's a vital starting point, Maya. Organization charts act as a window into a company's own perception of itself. They highlight formal power structures, the distribution of rewards, and even how a business compares its priorities at a fixed point in time or over periods of change. What's striking in the department store sector is that these charts often reflect layers of accumulated history, sometimes going back over 150 years. They reveal how new business needs are grafted onto legacy frameworks, exposing both strengths and friction points. While daily collaboration or friction between teams isn't visible, the org chart gives you an architectural outline of how complexity is managed and where the business thinks its critical levers are.
That's very insightful. I'm intrigued by how these charts can reveal both strategic focus and inherited inefficiencies. For example, when you see old divisions like mail order sitting next to newly established digital departments, it gives a sense of a company's evolution and its attempts to modernize without discarding historical identity. It must also highlight pockets of inertia where old habits linger, as well as where innovative thinking is taking root. Let's drill down into the core structure, or as you call it, the skeleton, that most department stores use. Which C-level functions are standard today, and how are they evolving?
In almost every department store we reviewed, a similar backbone emerges. The major functions reporting directly to the CEO typically include finance and administration, buying and merchandising, retail operations, marketing, supply chain and logistics, IT, HR, and increasingly digital. Each of these is tasked with vast and often rapidly changing responsibilities. For instance, marketing is no longer just about advertising, but also about overseeing customer data and experience. Supply chain has had to adapt to major disruptions and new inventory strategies in recent years, particularly due to pandemic-related volatility. Where we see real evolution is in the emergence of digital as a distinct board-level function. Digital now often encompasses e-commerce, omni-channel, marketplaces, and more. Its leader, sometimes titled Chief Customer Officer, demonstrates how digital is no longer simply a part of the company, but integral to its ongoing survival.
It's remarkable how, even in organizations rooted in tradition, this newly elevated digital function is now driving both customer engagement and operational transformation. And with IT moving out from under the shadow of finance into a more strategic role, it suggests that retailers increasingly recognize technology's centrality to every business unit, be it in security, payments, or advanced analytics fueling decision-making. The org chart is, in this sense, a living document of shifting priorities. Now, Christopher, your research highlights that the last 5 years have seen some dramatic realignments. What are the most significant changes you've observed, and what's driving them?
The most prominent shift is undoubtedly the rise of e-commerce as a standalone function. Whereas 5 years ago, e-commerce might have been buried within marketing, finance, or even legacy mail order teams, it is now almost always elevated to its own department. This autonomy enables digital teams to move faster and bring in specialized skills. Another key trend is the push for less hierarchy. CEOs now communicate directly with leaders of specialist units, which enhances agility but also increases the need for cross team communication. In parallel, we see experimentation with buying and planning divisions, with some companies splitting these roles only to recombine them when the model didn't deliver as expected. The willingness to both try new structures and reverse course when necessary is a sign of an industry in active transition.
So rather than rigid adherence to tradition, we're seeing an openness to structural trial and error, sometimes grouping operations, marketing, and buying under one commercial head, sometimes splitting them apart. These evolutionary steps point to a willingness among leading retailers to adapt and recalibrate in pursuit of the right balance for their business model. You describe the organization's structure as having distinct morphologies beyond the skeleton. Could you elaborate on how key functions differ, especially in terms of centralization, dispersion, and autonomy?
Yes, you have a point there, Maya. Functions such as finance, IT, and supply chain tend to benefit from centralization because of scale and investment needs. IT, in particular, is evolving rapidly, often enjoying the flattest hierarchy and operating in agile fashion. Human resources, meanwhile, is more dispersed, adapting to local requirements on a store, regional, or skill based level. In recent years, sustainability oversight has often fallen to HR, indicating both its reach and the growing complexity of the sustainability mandate. Retail operations and merchandising, traditionally viewed as the revenue engines, are confident, sometimes even fiercely autonomous. This can result in significant structural variation depending on a retailer's focus on, say, food versus apparel or the strategic value of their flagship locations. These differences are often a product of historical trajectories, company culture, and the personalities driving them.
That breakdown helps clarify why some functions resist centralization and instead thrive on autonomy or local adaptation. It's also interesting that sustainability, once an afterthought, now requires both specialized technical skills and integration across departmental boundaries, making it one of the most complex and dynamic elements of the modern chart. Digital and marketing seem to be undergoing a fundamental transformation. What is the organizational impact of this shift? And how are companies managing the overlap and tension between these domains?
Digital's direct impact on virtually every other function has led to the creation of cross functional teams and the elevation of roles like Chief Customer Officer or Chief Innovation Officer, which didn't exist a decade ago. In many cases, traditional marketing responsibilities are migrating to digital or customer focused departments, particularly as consumer data and omni-channel experience become central to competitive advantage. This transition isn't always smooth. It often generates a degree of contestation as roles and budgets shift, and as traditional marketers must work more closely with data scientists and technologists. Yet, it's also fostering more collaboration and breaking down silos, which is essential for any retailer aiming to provide a seamless customer journey. The shift is less about static structure and more about dynamic cross functional integration.
Okay, I see, Christopher. I mean, I feel like the capacity to flex and collaborate across boundaries seems to be the real measure of an effective retail structure today. The battle over where marketing lives is a microcosm of the broader tension between legacy models and digital first thinking, and the resolution of that tension is defining the new competitive edge. A recurring theme is that some business units don't fit neatly into standard boxes. Flagship stores, outlet formats, and food divisions all seem to require different approaches. Why is this, and what can we learn from how they're structured?
Maya, these are indeed the edge cases in retail structures. Flagships may have customer bases quite unlike regular branches. Think tourists or local influencers, meaning their product mix, marketing, and even operational practices have to be uniquely tailored. Outlets having evolved from mere clearance channels to fully fledged formats, now deserve their own dedicated teams for buying, operations, and digital presence. Food, historically managed separately due to the requirements of freshness, compliance, and customer service, is now becoming interconnected with wellness, luxury, and gifting strategies. The lesson here is that rigid adherence to a universal structure can limit growth. Retailers succeed by customizing their approach to each business unit, adjusting for market needs and strategic goals.
That willingness to bend the structure, rather than force every division into a predetermined mold, is probably one of the strongest signs of mature, forward-thinking leadership. To wrap up, your report poses several critical questions for leaders. Could you walk us through the strategic considerations that should be top of mind for every department store executive reviewing their organization chart today?
Well, 3 questions stand out, Maya. First, in pursuing digital transformation, do you empower a separate digital department for visibility and focus? Or do you drive digital literacy and accountability across every function? Second, is your approach to sustainability simply tokenistic, tucked within HR? Or do you dedicate the resources and technical expertise required for real credibility in this area? Third, have you provided enough autonomy and focus to special business units like flagships, outlets, and food, recognizing that their needs and market opportunities may not align with your mainstream model? These questions help retailers ensure that their structure is not just a reflection of the past, but a blueprint for future resilience.
That's an excellent framework, each point a call to action for executives who want not just to keep pace, but to lead change. Thank you, Dr. Christopher Nee, for sharing such deep and actionable insights into the anatomy of department store organizations.
You are very welcome, Maya. See you next time.
For our listeners, if you're looking to explore these themes further, including case studies and detailed research, visit our Substack at IADS Exclusive Insights. Please subscribe to our channel and share this episode with your strategic team. Remember, in the world of retail, the right structure is not static. It's designed to evolve. Until next time, structure for the future and lead with vision.